Welcome back live, everybody. Right now, to comment on the interview you just saw with Beth Holloway and with Dutch investigator Peter de Vries, the man who stung Joran van der Sloot, we're joined by former LAPD detective and Fox News analyst Mark Fuhrman, who joins me from Spokane to reflect on what we just heard from our previous guests. So, Mark, first, I just want to get this out right away. This is a guy, we were just talking about who was his accomplice, who was the one who told him, advised him about how to cover up his alleged involvement in the disappearance of Natalee Holloway. Do you want to comment on who you believe, as you sit there tonight, he was talking about when he was, Joran, unbeknownst to him, was being recorded talking to the snitch?
Well, I'll say this, Geraldo. It certainly wasn't an equal, somebody of about the same age. Now, you only have to flip this coin upside down and look at the other side and say, let me get this straight. You have a dead girl on your hands. You call up a buddy in the middle of sleep or in the middle of a date or in the middle of a drink at a bar and says, I need some help. I've got a dead girl. He says, go home, get some sleep, go to school tomorrow. I'll get my boat, drag the girl to the boat, take the boat out, drop her at sea, and ask no questions. What a ridiculous statement that is. But that really fits in well with his confession. Now, when you look at, I heard what Mr. de Vries, I heard what Beth said, what you said, and I think everybody is a little hesitant to make the speculative claim that it could be a parent, but who on the island does Joran van der Sloot have such a tight relationship with that he could call and do something as far-reaching, as tragic, as to conceal a death, no matter how the death occurred? Well, you know, common sense would say it's got to be somebody very close to Joran van der Sloot. In fact, somebody that you would take that name to the grave. I agree with you.
All right, Mark, having said that, obviously, he lied to Patrick about this so-called Dory Rodriguez character who does not exist, or if he does, the Dory we know was not on the island at the time, because he was untruthful in that aspect of his confession as a professional cop. Should we reject as incredible the other statements Joran made?
Absolutely not. And Geraldo, people that watch way too much TV and way too many crime movies, they don't understand that these interrogations of criminals last hours, they last days, they go on for weeks and months sometimes to piece together all these little puzzles. And suspects will lie, and I think this is a very crafty confession, and I know the reasons probably why Joran said it the way he did and what he was trying to achieve. But because he lied about this only shows knowledge that he knew he wasn't in the country, so there's no possible way he could get him in trouble. But yet he seemed to give something to the informant that made him feel that he was now special. In other words, he laid a little bit of trust at his feet. And this is the process that undercover narcotics officers go through to get into large narcotic syndicates. How does anybody think they do this? They do it a little bit at a time.
The confession, quote unquote, seems typically to skirt criminal responsibility. He tries to confess without saying, I killed her. How typical is the fact that he gets up to it and skirts around it?
Well, I think it's very typical. When you sit down with somebody and there's a death involved and the suspect knows that the detective sitting across from him has placed him at the scene, either by his own statements or other evidence like a car or a witness, if he knows that, now he's got to account for how somebody is dead and how they aren't responsible. So I think it's very crafty in this way. He can now show this undercover journalist, he can show him, well, you know, Joran thinks, this guy's a tough guy. I've got to impress him. What's the one way you can impress a tough guy? The cops were interrogating me for days and weeks, and I never gave in. Well, if you know nothing, then you can't give up anything. But if you know something, and he gave him this, but at the same time he said, well, she had a convulsion. He didn't say if he gave her something, if he hit her before she had a convulsion, if he choked her before she had a convulsion. He didn't say any of those things. All of a sudden, just miraculously, he's involved in a consensual sexual contact with Natalee Holloway, and all of a sudden, boom, she goes into a convulsion, and then she dies.
Do you think, I'm losing your signal there to Washington, do you think that the case is solved? Do you think that this is what went down?
I think it is the most important part of this. What went down is now Joran van der Sloot put himself with Natalee Holloway at a time when he believed she died, and then he did nothing to give her any aid. All he did is destroy the evidence, got rid of the body, and covered up the manner and cause of death. Absolutely, he should go into trial.
I agree with you, Bud. Thanks for joining me. Mark Fuhrman will be right back after this. Something very special, a special